The beat sick.
Welcome to Ballers and Briefs. This is September the 20th. This is the week 2 recap and to get you guys ready for week 3 Thursday night football. I wanted to give a special shout out tonight for our intro music by Marcus Aurelius from Soul Reacher Academy. Hit him up on soulreacheracademy.com and we'll have more music. We'll have more music coming soon from Marcus at Soul Reacher Academy.
He is the GOAT of music, that is for sure.
Yes, he is, and we appreciate him supplying tonight's music for us so that we can entertain you all guys, and you all don't have to just listen to our voices and listen to some beats in the background. So
make sure when you hit him up for music, you say hashtag who dat. Because Marcus is a Carolina fan and we don't like them boys.
And tell him that if you do hit him up, that you got a plug from Ballers and Briefs. So we'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, boys, week 2, what's cracking? Like what happened? What's a word?
I think what's cracking is people's bodies. There was a significant amount of injuries in week 2.
Yeah, a lot of injuries.
I think everybody got cracked for that purpose.
Nick Chubb.
Shout out Nick Chubb. Exactly. You know, does anybody know if he lost his leg? Because I know that there was some news that there was a potential that he could potentially lose the leg in that surgery that he was doing.
That I haven't heard the latest on. I believe I heard that he may have had surgery already, but maybe that was also a bad report. But I do know for a fact that leading into that Monday night, I was chasing the weekly top points for the 10-man league, and when he went down, that crashed me out, and now I'm having to look towards the future to try to find a way to replace him, as I believe he was my second pick for my 10-man league draft. So that's definitely a blow. We still got the W, so got the 2-0 for the 10-man, but a team that was looking really strong now definitely isn't as strong, and definitely got to try to come up with different scenarios on how to move forward. So that'll definitely be an interesting, definitely working the waiver wires all day today. But I also had Kyron Williams stashed on the
GOAT.
The bench.
We said it. We called it. We tried to tell you people to trash Kyron Williams.
And with the latest Akers news, that made me even more excited, knowing he's just been shipped off to Minnesota. So technically, that's going to be my game plan moving forward. I already basically slotted him in to the lineup, and off we go. I believe in that McVay system, when the running back's pure, the whole thing works beautifully. If the running back isn't good, everything else falls apart. The play action scheme falls apart. So that means the passing scheme falls apart. So definitely looking forward to that.
For other people in season long that, you know, are losing Chubb, they should know that Kareem Hunt was signed back onto the team, and Ford did a damn good job. You know, I think it'll be.
Was that a fluke, or do you see long term with that?
I don't think that was a fluke. I think
he was too bad. When he came out of college out of Cincinnati, I thought he was pretty good. He was on that Desmond Ridder Cincinnati team.
Was Ford the transfer from Alabama that went to Cincinnati? Maybe
you might be right.
You
might be right.
Wrong on that? Is that and then he played 1 year for Cincinnati and got drafted? Because I think that then when I saw him on the Browns, I was trying to remember him in college.
He did good.
You are correct. You are 100% correct. He was the transfer from Alabama. Yes.
Yep. Okay. I thought so, because I thought I remember that name in the SEC as well. But I wasn't sure what you guys.
2 years at Bama, 2018 and 2019
prospects with that Cleveland offense.
And then they got Kareem Hunt back. He's familiar with the offense. You know, he was always their pass catching back though. So I feel like he's going to go right back into that role. Ford's going to take over the Chubb role, and then they're going to have Kareem Hunt out there playing third downs and any other type of passing routes that they want to run. I mean, there was plenty of weeks, I mean, for DFS purposes where Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt both went off. So I don't see where, they actually hurt each other. For some reason, the Browns running back scheme doesn't seem to like hurt each other like it does on other teams.
I think the problem is with the only setback I can see in this situation, and this is just me thinking that the Deshaun Watson effect, being that I feel like on Monday night, like the Deshaun Watson effect, it took over, like the fact that he wanted to be the show, and
his running game
literally felt like he was throwing the ball, but he was throwing interceptions, getting face mask penalties, should have been kicked out of the game once or twice, maybe for doing stupid shit, and I think that the way he was acting and knowing the way that we seen Nick Chubb, I feel like Nick Chubb's like one of those guys that's a straight stand-up dude. Maybe that's just me from my time watching him in Georgia, but I feel like he's just a straight stand-up kid. Like he's one of the faces of the NFL, and like he's one of the hardest workers in the NFL. And then you go from that to Deshaun Watson running the show now. So it's like Deshaun Watson's full-on team. I mean, the only other face on that team I'm going to say is Myles Garrett. Garrett. It's the Myles Garrett show and the Deshaun Watson show. And you get what you get with that. So, I mean, talking about Jerome Ford, I mean, he went from I think they percentage-wise, he went up 63% rosters in ESPN Fantasy, up to 72%. So he was.
Yeah, I mean, when he came onto the field, I think he was on the field 40% of the time and got 37% of the rushes. So when he was on the field, he was getting the ball. That's literally.
How do you feel from a daily fantasy perspective? Would you prefer him or would you prefer a Kareem Hunt with his pass catching ability?
On DraftKings, that's a good question. On DraftKings, Kareem Hunt, because he gets the points per reception every time he touches the ball. I always on DraftKings want a pass catching back over somebody like Chubb, who doesn't really catch the ball at the backfield. I much rather have like an Eckler or, somebody like that that's always catching the ball at the backfield. With that said, I rostered Kareem Hunt numerous times in past seasons on DraftKings, and it's paid off. And
I pulled him in my best ball, DFS, best ball, season-long best ball. When he was on no team, I was like, I have a late draft pick on here. Let me just roster Kareem Hunt just for fun.
Now it's going to work out.
It's going to work out because I feel like at that point, I think I drafted before the whole Jonathan Taylor saga kind of came to an end. And I was like, oh, this dude's going to end up in Indianapolis, right?
Yeah.
And now he's back in Cleveland. He's got to be. I mean, I think Ford continues to probably eat. Like I said, he's probably going to be number one.
That's your FanDuel play for real. You want Ford on FanDuel. You don't want.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not a pass catching back either because he was third down. He was third down back with Chubb on the field, right? So I think that I think that there's and this is not a limitability here. I don't think as even Kevin Stefanski said the thing. There's no replacing Nick Chubb. I think it's going to take two running backs with multiple ability, Nick Chubb and another running back. If that makes you're having to basically replace.
We're losing Cody
with two running.
Having a little bit of lag on Cody's audio there.
All right, looks like you're back though. You're not chopping no more.
But what I'm saying is, you're losing two.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah, you have to use. Yeah.
To be honest, and to go back to Brad's question, I'm not rostering probably Kareem Hunt or Jerome Ford until for next week. I gotta see how it plays out next week. I mean, they are going against Tennessee too, so I'd rather wait and see. I'm one of those people. I'm not gonna get FOMO and play them where it's like the fear of missing out. If I don't play this person, they break the slate. If I break the slate, they break the slate. I'd rather just wait it out and not take any chances because although I think it'll play along the lines of Ford being the Chubb and Kareem Hunt going back to his old role, we really don't know. And then, like Cody said, Watson is that dual threat you got to worry about. That wasn't an issue on that team back when Kareem Hunt was getting all that work and Chubb was getting all that work, you didn't have a quarterback back then that was taking the ball and running with it. So even though it's third down and Kareem Hunt's on the field, Watson could keep it and run it. And now Kareem Hunt's value is just going down. So for that purpose, it's a wait and see for me.
Yeah, for sure. I guess something that is fantasy relevant, and I don't want to spill all the beans for Saturday's show, but for something that's coming up in particular for Thursday night's affected game, Saquon Barkley, right? And I think that's probably the most relevant injury for our purposes tonight. No Saquon, Matt Breida.
Yeah.
Breida going to probably be starting, and then Brightwell maybe getting some touches in there. It's kind of messy, to be honest. I was looking at, the snap percent last week, and it was terrible for both. I'm not gonna lie. It was, Breida was on the field much more. He was on the field 22% and only touched the ball 7% of the time. And then Brightwell was on the field 15% and touched the ball 3% of the time. That's like a play or two, if that. So,
and it's hard to kind of gauge a little bit because from watching the game, they were behind, I believe, like 3 scores really early. So it would be hard to kind of really determine what type of true game plan they have if it was more so a 0-0 game than when you're playing from behind. But even with that, it kind of seems like I'm not sure what type of pass catching ability is there from Matt Breida or from some of the other running backs that maybe you can get some dump offs. But Daniel Jones is pretty good for a couple dump offs each game, and I believe that you'll probably see a good deal of that against the San Francisco defense, because I just don't know how much your receivers are going to get separation with this style of defense that they're going to.
That's another thing too. Daniel Jones runs it, right? So it goes right back into that Deshaun Watson talk we were just talking about. I mean, he's running the ball as well. So is that going to kill these dudes that are already going to be limited? And I feel like Giants might be testing the waters here. They also have Eric Gray as a running back. He didn't touch the ball at all last week, but he's on the team. They might want to see what he can do. From the looks of it, it looks like Brightwell caught maybe one more pass than Breida. But does it mean he's going to be the pass catching back? I feel like we might even see the use of 3 running backs here just so they can figure out what they want to do at running back. I feel like this is also that test the waters thing where I know we're talking about a showdown slate. So when I'm max entering tournaments, I definitely am going to get probably a little bit of these guys in there, maybe like a lineup or 2 in a mass entry. But if you're like doing single entry, I think you can play without them, to be honest. I don't know that they do much. I think the people you need to watch on the Giants are Slayton and Waller, and that's probably about it.
Do you see anything with Jalen Hyatt, the rookie out of Tennessee?
No.
For the Giants, he's had a couple kind of deeper route receptions. I didn't know if you thought maybe a punt play for him tomorrow.
Maybe. I mean, he was on the field 35% and targeted 3%. So I guess all that time he was on the field, he got a pass. I mean, if he's your deep threat, I feel like people are forgetting about somebody that's on this team too, that if I'm going to be punting, I think I go to Isaiah Hodgins for DFS. Okay. I think people are forgetting that he was like a prime target for Daniel Jones, like the final weeks of last year's season. Like he was just the main guy that was going to. Might have been because of injuries, I think, to Slayton and Shepard, but, that's still another person right there, Sterling Shepard. He's been on this team a long time, and dude was on the field. We've
seen him break slates before.
Yeah, and he was on the field barely. He was on the field less than Hyatt last week, and got the ball.
He's coming back from an ACL, right, Brad? Or was it Achilles for him? I can't remember. It was ACL, right? I think.
Significant. I know that.
Yes, I know he was coming. I think it's ACL is what he was coming back for.
ACL with him.
Yes. Yeah, I think it was the ACL he's coming back from.
Achilles. I think it was ACL.
I just know, like, out of the games they've played, that Slayton and Waller are the guys. I don't know how much exposure I'm gonna have to Giants players. I think that comeback against Arizona was like on Arizona.
It was against Arizona, which we didn't think was going to be a good defense to begin with. We saw what the Giants did against a good defense in Dallas, or
it's what we'll see again.
Defense. I believe that's probably what's going to kind of what we're going to see in San Francisco. And I mean, I kind of have this feeling that Kyle Shanahan is going to pull that Kyle Shanahan, let's play action, run, play action, Christian McCaffrey. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't stop it, it's just going to keep pounding you with it. And then
I don't think
Brock Purdy's going to find someone across the middle, which there's another person that's listed as questionable, Brendan Ayuk, with a shoulder. So, I mean, it's Thursday, coming up short week, so we have to monitor that. I know he was
when he went out though. We saw Deebo Samuel just take over, so that might have built some chemistry with Purdy moving forward to the point where I don't know if I trust Ayuk coming back with a shoulder injury. Even if he plays, he might be limited, and it's one of those injuries that can just be right back. Because it's a shoulder. You get hit, you land on your shoulders. You get hit in the shoulder. Like, it could easily just put him right back on the sideline. I'm going to limit my exposure to Ayuk. I'm going to have more Samuel than anything. I'm also, the way I play DFS is I kind of fade the chalk. I fade where the high ownership's at. And right now, CMC, Christian McCaffrey, is coming in super owned, probably because everybody sees it the way Cody does. I mean, I kind of see it that way as well. But for DFS purposes, I'm considering, I'm not going to play him at all in the captain spot, but I'm considering like maybe only one or two lineups with CMC because I feel like he's going to be like 90% owned. I'll get leverage on 90% of the crowd if he's not in my lineups at all.
I feel like that you want to talk about chalk. I feel like the Niners defense have to be top 3 chalkiest plays of tomorrow night, like literally just because of what we've seen Dallas's defense do to Daniel Jones. And talking about defense, low?
Right now they're low. I mean, that's a good play right now. Tomorrow that could be different. Captain slot, they're coming in at 4%. And then in the flex, 26%.
No,
but that's
Saquon, and they're that low?
It's not that high. I mean, that's a pretty high number in the flex, I guess, but it's not that high compared to like McCaffrey, who's coming in at 80%.
What is the line? Do you see the line on the game? What's the line on this game?
I don't know the spread on the game, but the over/under
I can
over 44, over under 44.
But I can't see points over under 44.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to see kind of sort of
the line is minus 10. It's minus 10. Yes,
okay.
10 points.
Okay, because I'm just trying to see maybe what other people are seeing as far as for kind of staying away from the 49ers, because I would think that would be a huge, basic, easy starting pick.
I think they're scared of what they just
from
saw
a fantasy perspective.
I think people are like thinking that he's back or he's something else because.
But that was the Cardinals defense, though.
Exactly, but. People see.
I think people are scared. Literally, they're scared of what the Rams just did, because I saw something today that literally you're kicking the ball. The spread was 7.5 or 7, something like that, with the Rams, and the field goal covered the spread. So like it was an instant, like how quick the ref got up to the ball, and of course the conspiracy theorists. NFL come out that Vegas made the call, like you got to cover it, you got to let them cover the spread, So, I think that has a lot to do with it. We saw how I felt like when we've seen San Francisco usually have their way with the Sean McVay Rams team, and we thought their defense was pretty much kind of garbage coming into this year, or at least really down, minus Aaron Donald, right? And we saw that. I think that has everything to do with it. I don't think the Giants beating the Cardinals, coming back on a Josh Dobbs led Cardinals team with mediocre players at best on their team, right? So I don't think that I don't think that's it. I think it's what San Francisco just let happen to them by the Rams, which, again, as we always say, Phil's favorite thing to say, it's a division rival. Those two Niners have had their number.
They just know them.
They know
how to
him.
scheme
Yes,
They know how to scheme against them and get open.
They know the defense they run. They know all of that, and they're prepared for it. And back to the reasons that I may be fading McCaffrey is it's his price. What I told y'all before, he's got to get a certain amount of points and need value. If he's not going to get touchdowns in this game, which could be highly likely, then he's not going to get value. He may get a lot of work, which is great, which you want to see from a normal price player, but McCaffrey's going to be coming in at a 13,000 salary. That's insane.
He's got to be your captain though in cash, right? He's got to be.
In cash all day. I'm playing CMC. Let me make that clear. CMC, whether he's my captain or not, I'm locking him in cash because you take the high ownership all day long in cash. But in GPP, when you're trying to win a tournament with 200,000 people in it, you can't have that type of ownership and win tournaments. You got to be different. And there's somebody on the 49ers that likes to take touchdowns from the running backs on the goal line. Use check. Let's not forget that guy comes in and just little handoff to him and he's in the end zone every time and he takes touchdowns.
They were talking about it on TV the other day. Like during the Rams game, they're like, watch Kyle Juszczyk here. And they were like pointing at him or whatever. They said something, some kind of side smirk or whatever, because I was watching it through red zone. So you can sometimes they fade in and out, but I could tell that they were talking about him because they kind of zoomed in and pointed at the camera at him. And they were thinking that he was about to steal one, hawk a touchdown at from the 3-yard line or whatever, because they were lined up in a strong formation. Yes,
he's due. I'm telling you,
you want to get ownership
on a Thursday night. It's like
you got to get ownership
night for a fullback sneak. It's like one of those prime nights. I'm telling you.
I think you can dodge Elijah Mitchell was that his name? Elijah Mitchell. I think you can kind of fade him a lot. He's been out on the field, and CMC catches more than him, runs more than him. I think he's the dud. But I think with Juszczyk, 600, that's captain price. This is probably a 200 player, 400 salary. He's good for if he comes in and gets touchdown.
In a 20 max for sure.
That breaks slate for his value there, just one. All he needs is one touchdown, but that's all he's going to get, right? Don't roster him and be like, oh, man, he's got 0 points and it's the third quarter. Like, dude, you should not be expecting him to come out on the field and run the ball. What you're expecting from him is one of those first and goal, second and goal, and they hand it off to him touchdown.
Hand off or a fat fullback out in the flat. Flat route. Yes.
Play action fullback flat.
What was the John Gruden play? 229 6Y banana or whatever it is. A little fullback flat route with a corner post off to the side and a play action fake to the running back.
You know it's coming. You know it's coming.
It's easier for them to do now with CMC, right? Because you can't not bite on CMC. If CMC is coming across that, you have to bite at that. If not, and they hand it to him, he's gonna score. So they're gonna bite on it, and it's gonna be a little right there. Juszczyk. Everybody's gonna be like, man, what the fuck? I knew I shouldn't have rostered CMC, man. I knew it.
Some asshole in Vegas is gonna have that one or more touchdowns. Kyle Juszczyk, and it's gonna make them a couple thousand. $10,000 on a cheap bet, So that's I like that play. I mean, we know that we've seen that in the past, and I like that a lot. I mean, I like that better than a Breda and a fucking Brightwell. Like with them, I have no idea their potential. And to be honest, I think even if they have potential, it's extremely limited against. The only thing I can see is a Matt Breida type revenge game against the 49ers.
So are you just only playing Waller from the Giants tomorrow? Or is there
Slayton, I'm going to have higher ownership on. Both of them, they get the ball a lot. Waller's in a good position. I think he had 8 targets last week. If he gets that type of production again, he'll in the flex, that's money all day. If he gets that type of production and gets a touchdown or two, he's breaking the slate in the captain spot. So Waller is definitely somebody to look at. Slayton, somebody to look at. They're both getting like, I think it's like 17% touches in target percents in the game. Let's see, Slayton, 17%, and Waller 17%. Everybody else is below them. Now like I said, I'm gonna have little pieces. I'll have some pump plays, or I call them turds. Isaiah Hodgins, maybe some Paris Campbell, maybe some Sterling Shepard in minute lineups. Just to be different, just to make sure I have some exposure to them. But for the most part, I think your focus needs to be on the San Francisco side of this ball. You need a lot of exposure to people like Debo. Depending on Ayuk, you want to get some good exposure there. You got George Kittle, he's on the field 70% of the time. He's getting 21% target share. I mean, he's right up there with Ayuk and Samuel. So you want to get some of that exposure. I think that might be about it. I mean, you definitely want to get your CMC exposure as well. Just me, I take risk on trying to win these big tournaments. When I say I'm playing a little bit of McCaffrey, that's me taking a major risk. Like, I'm willing to lose it all to win it all. And majority of the time, I'm probably going to lose it all doing something like that. But if it works out, and like I said, and don't forget, like, CMC's gone down in the past. He's gone down and been out on a showdown slate, and somebody has came in and ate. So don't, put all your eggs in one basket because CMC's, got a good matchup and he's CMC and he always gets the ball. You can put all your eggs in the basket and then you're going to split money with a bunch of people, kind of like I just did this past weekend. Or you can take a risk, be different than everybody, and if it pays off and he shits the bed, you clean house. And you're not splitting with a lot of people. You're getting that big, fat paycheck.
Gotcha.
I just don't. It's in San Francisco. I can see I mean, are you looking at 4-2? Maybe probably more like a 4-2 on this one, Phil?
I took some notes. 3-3 wins this, is going to win this majority of the time, but 4-2 favoring San Francisco was the second most. Even a 5-1 from San Francisco. So, I mean, I could see some creative ways where you put like Daniel Jones in the captain, and then all the other people in the lineup be San Francisco. You don't need – Daniel Jones is one of those type of people that can get his fantasy points without everybody else. I mean, he could run one in. He could run two in. He could pass one to a running back, then run one in, and then pass one to like Waller, right? And Waller's got a touchdown. Brady's got a touchdown. It's not a lot of points, but Daniel Jones would have a lot because he's got 3. And then on the backside, you got 5 San Francisco players eating. In that lineup, I feel like you could have CMC. He could get you maybe 15, 20 points and it not kill you. And because you could still afford everybody else. You can get you Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle. Just feed it. Put Juszczyk in that line. That'd be the kill right there. Daniel Jones captain, Samuel, Ayuk, CMC, and then Juszczyk. That little sneaky pump play all the way at the bottom. I don't know.
There you go. There's the lineup for the people.
Yeah, it's off the top too. Like, you can be creative in that way. And then you also have another way to be creative in this game. I don't know if I'm going to go there, but the other way to be creative in this game is to favor the Giants and favor the Giants D. Who the fuck's going to play Giants defense against the 49ers? I tell you right now.
If the game is slow, and 49ers are not doing other but just trying to chew the clock off and they get that one or two easy, quick touchdowns and just try to play keep away, I could see the Giants defense. I mean,
even bad plays create good turnovers, right? Brock Purdy could throw it to Samuel, tipped, pick 6. Now Giants defense are 100% in the nuts, and nobody did anything wrong except for the tipped ball, right?
We saw this in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh first play. There you go. The
last play, the first play and the last play. Literally that first play.
It was not his fault on the first play. Hit the guy right in the hands, bounced off, intercepted, pick 6. Right? you could see something from Brock Purdy not be his fault. I mean, it could be a lineman that gets a hand on it. It's up in the air. They grab it, score a touchdown, and that will literally put the Giants in the absolute nuts, the best lineup as a defense, and they're going to be rostered so low because everybody's like, there's no way Giants defense is relevant.
They're going to do anything.
And, I can look at it. Let's see. Giants defense, projected ownership is probably the lowest, but it's coming in at 15% in the flex and only 1% in the captain.
Well, so you were talking about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones being that one of those guys that can create for himself. He was in the $1 million lineup on Sunday. He was the captain in the $1 million lineup with 34.74 points. I mean, this quarterback, of course, wasn't a showdown slate, right? But obviously, with him being the quarterback in the Millie, he would have been the captain in a showdown because you can do every Sunday. You can do a showdown. It doesn't have to be every Thursday night. It doesn't have to be a Monday night game. You can do every Sunday. You can do each individual game as a showdown on DraftKings. Or on FanDuel as a single play. But we don't really cover that because we try to get exposure in the bigger tournaments because they're smaller. But like, for instance, I played a Texans versus Indianapolis on cash play on Sunday to try to cover money for elsewhere. But yeah, so Daniel Jones was in the nuts lineup. Individual guy won all the money by himself went with Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones was drafted 3.28%.
That's how you get different right there. And
Daniel Jones, 3.28%.
Worked against me. He's the only quarterback I didn't play. I was like, I'm not playing Daniel Jones. Do some doo-doo. Look at that. Nuts captain. There's going to be somebody saying I'm not putting Giants defense in the captain spot because they suck. And they're 1% owned in the captain spot. Is what they're projected right now. I mean,
and the
number's not always on.
Like 3%. This lineup stacked a Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Darren Waller.
Another thing somebody
isn't going to do. $1 million.
And another thing someone isn't going to do is play a favored 49ers lineup against that defense. And that's another way to get creative. Why not 4 San Francisco players and Daniel Jones and New York Giants defense? People are like, I can't do that because if these 49er players are doing good, the defense is doing bad. Cody will tell you, we've seen these showdowns all the time end with defenses in them in the nuts and in the captain spot in the nuts and the flex in the nuts with 5 sacks of the other team on the other side.
Yeah.
All it takes is a pick six, a fumble, numerous sacks, a fumble recovery.
An interception or 2.
Yeah. And next thing you know, they don't start losing points every time the defense scores. They're gaining points because they're getting sacks, they're getting turnovers, they're gaining points. So now this defense has 10 points at the end of the game or 15 on fantasy purposes, and they're drafted 1%.
I could see it being a little harder for this game just for the simple fact of I think, and you can attest to this, Brad, that San Francisco's offensive line is probably, I would say, up here versus what the defensive line in New York is, or the front 7 for that matter.
Well, I will give credit. You do have Dexter Lawrence right there in the middle, who is a monster, he's a grown man. And he could cause some problems a little bit. But the great thing about Kyle Shanahan is he knows how to scheme up those outside runs to really get that running back on the outside into the perimeter. So I do agree that offensive line, maybe not necessarily running straight up in between the tackles, but sort of towards the outside, those outside zone plays that Kyle Shanahan's great at scheming up. I could definitely see those popping.
I mean, I don't think that they have a terrible set of linebackers. I mean, Bobby
and they got Kayvon Thibodeau. He's pretty solid.
He's good. I feel like he was a good pick. And like I said, Bobby Okereke, the linebacker, and then Isaiah Simmons,
Martindale, the coach. He loves the blitz, so that could cause problems potentially for Purdy tomorrow, which then adds to what Phil was saying about if you want to gamble on a defense, if I'm going to gamble on a defense, to me, I like to gamble on the most aggressive defense, because there could be that one game where all of that aggressive play pays off sort of tenfold. You know, it might burn you, 9 out of 10 times, but that one time would be that perfect play. This could be potentially that type of situation tomorrow. Brock Purdy's still fairly new in the league. There's going to be a game where he's going to get confused. We make it like he's a sort of an MVP. He's not that just yet. So, again, a good blitzing defense could, trick him 2 times for pick sixes tomorrow. They might still lose. They could still lose, but that doesn't mean that they don't get those 2 pick sixes. Well,
it could even control it to a field goal type of game, right? And if it's a field goal type of game, defenses are always relevant in those type of lineups on DraftKings. When a defense is in there, there's usually a kicker in there. I wouldn't count out either one of these kickers. I think some of the stats I was looking at earlier, and I'll pull them up just to be exact, is that the New York Giants kicker has been in the optimal lineup in the flex, not in the captain, 25% of the time out of 20 lineups. I think is that like 5 times, 6 times, 5-6 times he's been in the optimal lineup. Like, don't count that out. And then 20% from the 49ers. So same thing. You got both these kickers that have been in the optimal lineup, 6, 7 times, 5, 6, 7 times over their career. Could absolutely happen again tomorrow. I don't think anybody here is telling y'all at home to go in and put all your eggs in the Giants defense. Definitely not saying that.
Not at all.
If you're trying to get different and you're trying to, make some money, and you don't care that the high risk you're taking, certainly get some exposure to them in the captain spot. Get some exposure to them in the flex. Get some exposure to some of these differences, because everybody's seeing this game one way, and for the most part, especially people playing fantasy, they're like, the majority of people, they don't pay for services, they don't watch podcasts, they don't do their research. They're just like, oh, Brock Purdy's been on fire, he's been killing it. Samuel's got like 40 points last week. The 49ers going to kill the Giants. There's some trash. I'll tell you right now, primetime games never play out to that scenario. They never play out to the super favorited team dogging the other team. They just don't. I don't know why. Like, history will tell you that. I see this game being much closer.
And Thursday is something about Thursday night games. We have this.
You don't have a lot of time to prepare.
And this Thursday night shit, like literally, we have this like 2-ended thing that's happening, right? Monday nights, guys are literally dying on the field or almost career-ending injuries, right? At least since Troy and Joe Buck have been there. I mean, I don't want no part of that, right? And then Thursday nights, it's like, I think, was it something about last season? I think last season we had how many games that I know Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit were making jokes that it was like kicking. It was kicking. It was like nothing but kicking. Like, with no scoring. Like, there was no scoring, and it was just defense and kicking. And these are the ones that Phil and I are talking about. Like, we've been there, and like we've been in like these 20 max tournaments, and like we've thought about it that and I know, even though with you and I, Brad, we've had these like powerhouse guys that we have to go. We need them to go on Thursday because they were high round draft picks, and they have busted our ass because they've done nothing on Thursday nights because the game ended up being
Thursday night.
It ended up being just a kicking game. That's it. That's all they did was
kick
the ball.
Same thing here. Like, I'm almost like not opposed to actually betting on the Giants tomorrow, just because I know, one way to get different on sports bets is to fade the public. Now, Vegas is rich because they fade the public. Obviously, they hold all the public's bets. So, this is a good opportunity to be different, fade the public with your sports bet. It's also a good opportunity to be different and fade the public with your DFS. Come out here a little different approach, put some defenses in there, with some kickers in there, and see this game for like even match. I wouldn't be opposed to the 3-3 lineups neither. It's just hard. The Giants side is definitely harder to depict because of the so many punt plays or turd plays, you want to say, that are on that team. that you really don't know what they're going to do. And for that purpose, I think, their main targets are going to be Slayton and Waller and a field goal kicker. Like, I don't think we're going to see like an 80-yard pass to Isaiah Hodgins and break the slate. I don't see that happening. It could happen. I don't see that happening. I wouldn't be opposed to like Daniel Jones, Slayton, Waller as a 3-man, bring it back with something from the 49ers as well, or even like Jones, Waller, Giants defense, bring it back with like a kicker from 49ers, Debo Samuel, and George Kittle. Trying to get different.
Brad, as a defender, now this is the question, like as a defender, and this is kind
going
of
back to my Colgate days.
Yes, this is more of warning for like if trying to get different from exposure, like for Brandon Ayuk. If Brandon Ayuk is coming out there tomorrow, we know that he's playing, right? And you are the defender on the Giants, and you know that he's playing with a shoulder. He's catching these balls, or are you bumping him on the line? You running into him every chance that you can get to like just kind of not re-injure him, but just kind of keep it like, okay, man, I know you have a shoulder problem. I'm going to bump you every chance I get just so that I know that I'm exactly. Trying to be inside your head.
They're going to get into his head so he can get into his own head. So all he's thinking about the whole game is his shoulder instead of whatever route he's supposed to run.
Yes.
He's supposed to run it at. He's going to start to break that off. He may even attempt, where certain instances the receivers will kind of stretch their arms completely out to go and get a ball. There's maybe less likelihood that he may actually do that tomorrow. But again, it just depends on what the severity of that shoulder injury is.
I'm in my experience, I'm jamming him at the line every chance I can get.
From the doctor's side too, that's technically a little bit of an area where you can get a little, medical attention, different shots, in order to sort of ease some of that pain that you would feel for those 3 hours. You're gonna feel it afterwards, but that's definitely an area where you can kind of do those types of things. So he could be fine for the full 3 games. I mean, for the full 3 hours of the game. Just afterwards, it's gonna be hell. But
yes, deer antler blood
from
that deer antler in there, and he's good. But you gotta. Yeah. I agree with Cody. You gotta jam him off the line every time, and where you're hitting him is right into that shoulder every time.
You're just getting up under the pad level, under the arm.
Also, the thing with Ayuk though is sometimes he is in the slot as well, so Kyle can scheme it so that he doesn't necessarily is really going to get any contact, sort of 5 yards right there on the line of scrimmage.
Slot's scary though, because that's going to put him in the middle of the field when he catches the ball, most likely, and then he's going to get smacked, and then he's definitely going to get hurt. I mean, I think either way, it's a high risk, messing with him.
I'm not, and at the point, and I'm not even worried about so much of like him getting hurt. It's the fact of I'm thinking, okay, so we're playing him, right? And he's not going to get the target share that we've seen him get to create this 95% of rostership across leagues fantasy, right? Over the last couple of weeks. And his small emergence over this season of being possibly, I mean, might be going out on a limo here. I might be the only person saying that, but he's kind of San Francisco's wide receiver 1, at least for this season. I know because Debo's not being Debo, right? Like he's not out here Deboing people like he has the last few years, right?
Well, I think it's a little bit from the standpoint that we remember Debo when he was asked to also be the running back on the team, but that was kind of pre CMC. Now that he's there, you're not going to see that. So from a fantasy perspective, it's almost all pure, basically receiver. Receiving routes sort of further down the field. He may get a couple sort of handoffs or screens along those lines, but I think it's a lot of people that have to eat in San Francisco. So each week someone's going to have to kind of be the short end. And I also think that Brandon Ayuk really benefits from having Kittle, Samuel, and C-Mac on the field at the same time. the defense can only take away so many threats each play. There's no way you can't double everybody. So I think that Ayuk's going to continue to get that type of, from a fantasy perspective, the type of numbers that you would kind of want to see from Debo. You may not see that week in, week out, because he's going to get schemed up more so than Brandon will be.
Yeah. And what's that? What's the third on their team? Juwan Jennings? That's their third. I would say their third wide receiver.
I believe that's their third. Jennings.
Yeah, it is. It's Jennings. He was on the field 32% of the time, but only got 3% of the touches. Like one catch all the time. He's on the field.
It's only going to be a handful of catches.
I don't even know if he caught it. That's a target percent, right? That's not.
I believe he did make the catch, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, he had two on Sunday. He had 2 receptions on 3 targets for 51 yards. So
yeah,
I mean, he had 7.1 points. I mean, that's good for a fill-in or whatever. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's where I was going with
some points.
This is what I'm going with this. If we're looking for a punt play tomorrow, if you're filling roster space or whatever, I'm thinking a Jennings could theoretically be a punt play, even if he's on the field at the same time as a Brandon Ayuk. Just the simple fact of the matter is we're trying to get away from the Brandon Ayuk chalk.
I was kind of looking at the Hyatt again just because of that speed that he has. Does he one time get past the defense? Just once.
I agree.
That's all it. Just from a speed perspective, not a numbers, because the numbers don't tell us that. But
I think the punt's going to come from the Giants side 100%. I think it's either going to be the Giants defense or, like you're saying, it's a punt on their team. There's more punts on their team that aren't even like necessarily punts. They're just punts because the Giants are not well rounded, right? Like Isaiah Hodgins is wide receiver 2. But he's a fucking punt play. Whereas wide receiver 2 on the 49ers is Deebo Samuel. Like, they're not even in the same category. So I see the punt coming from the Giants side more than I see from the San Francisco. I think you could be chalky a little bit on the San Francisco side because your punt's going to come from the Giants side. Like you're saying, like, it's high at that
second tight end. I like that guy, the Daniel Bellinger with the Giants, the tight end too.
He's on the field a lot, but he's blocking.
That's what I said. He's always on the field, and I know last season he was tight end number 1, and he was getting shit tons of goal line work. And you know how Brian Daboll is, how in his time in Buffalo, he loved to get the second tight end or even the first tight end involved, in which we can't even really call Darren Waller. He's not a full-fledged tight end. I mean, dude's not he's a blocker. He's okay blocker, but he's not a full-fledged.
I'll give you a good stat that supports that. The tight end 1 for the Giants has been in the optimal lineup in the flex 0% of the time. Their tight end 2 has been in the flex 15% of the time.
I'm telling you, that Daniel Bellinger down at the fucking goal line. Dude, he's got a good set of hands, and he can block too. And like I said, I feel like with no Saquon, they're gonna have to find different ways to create.
But do with that what you will. They haven't had a Waller tight end on their team.
So I mean, do with that what you will. The Giants haven't had a good tight end since Jeremy Shockey, right? I mean,
so do with that what you will, but you can also use that to an advantage, right? I did that last week and won. Right, I had a stat that told me that the running back 2 for Miami was flexed.
You should show that. You should put that up on the screens for everybody to see.
I can talk a little bit about what I'm about to show the public. So, this lineup, I don't know, can you see it? Is it up there yet?
Hang on, just give me a second.
I'll wait for Cody to push it up there. But I can talk about this lineup in numerous ways. It's I came in first place in the 20 max, the $1 max on DraftKings. I came in first for $534 this past weekend. But I could talk about this lineup in numerous ways. So here's my Ahmed play in the lineup, and you could see he was rostered only 10%, and then the captain only 0.4%. So that was my way of getting different a little bit. But I had a stat that told me that the running back 2 was in the flex in the optimal 60% of the time. That was insane. I was like, I'm gonna up his exposure and make sure he's in the flex a whole lot. But I also had told Cody and talked to some people, and I told him I really think that Raheem Mostert is going to be the captain tonight. I didn't go with your obvious picks, your Tyreek Hill, your Jalen Waddle. I was getting different, and I could see the potential for Mostert doing it. I told Cody I'm going to roster Mostert and Stevenson for the Patriots and 10-10 lineups on DraftKings. And, this lineup is unique for numerous ways because who in their right mind is going to captain the RB1 and then also slot the RB2 and think that they're both going to eat in the lineup, right? Well, that lineup right there is significantly different, and it's played significantly different. This is what I'm talking about, how you got to get different to win. But I also tied first place with like 35 people. So that goes to show you, that's the reason why I only made $500 and some and not like 5,000, right? 35 people tied with me, even though I got different. So when I'm telling y'all, this is why I'm telling y'all, you have to get different, because not only does getting different win, but when you win, I tied with 35 people. I think there's like 100,000 plus people in this tournament. 35 is not a lot when you're thinking of 100,000 people or 20,000 people, even 20,000 people. Like 35 people is not a lot of people.
Well, you can see it paid out 22,471.
There you go. That's how many positions it paid out. So it's probably right here, entries, 83,000 people. So 35 people tied out of 83,234 people. And I was one of that 35 because I got different, right? And you see, I still played Tyreek Hill, but I didn't put him where everybody else was putting him. And if you see, he got a snowflake. He didn't even do good. I'm sure there might have been a better lineup than this, but there wasn't a better lineup than this made, because this would have also won the Millie Maker. Had I put this lineup in the Millie Maker, I would have tied with some people in there, and I would have made about $31,000 with all the people that tied in there. But this is, I'm not showing this to like brag, oh my God, I won $500, but I'm showing this to show people that when I talk about getting different, this is why, right?
I had a play off of this lineup in my Millie Maker, and I went opposite with the Hunter Henry play. But mine was pretty much like this, and I was shorted about 10 or 12 points, and it was astronomical, the difference. So I went from had like $40 once. But yeah, so what Phil's saying is you got to get different in these big tournaments like this, and
anything's possible, right? Yeah. A running back one and an RB in the same lineup. It's crazy how it works out, but it works out. So when we tell you these things, like you need to, put the Giants defense in even against 4 49ers players, because when you win, you still might be tied with 30 people, but it's going to be
the Millie Maker was also a 30-man tie or some 35-man.
It was $31,000 that I would have won if I had the lineup in there. I know that, but
that's crazy.
It happens. I didn't put it everywhere, right? I put it in this tournament. It's a very hard tournament to win because it's only $1. It's got a big crowd in it. But
so you paid $1. You paid $1 for this lineup, Phil, just to make sure I got you on this one.
Yes, sir.
You paid $1 for this one. Okay.
And made $534 off of it. So
gotcha.
This is the 20 max, right, Phil?
Yeah. So I ended up putting 20 lineups in this tournament. Cost me $20 total, so the real math is 20 turned into 534. But essentially, it was $1 lineup that made $534 because I had other lineups that made money. They all didn't lose. So
I got you.
I took a stand, and I talked about it a different week, and I'll talk about it now again. When it comes to these showdowns and these 20 maxes, you can't get exposure to like 10 different captains in 20 lineups. You need to really take a risk, isolate down, and pick 1 or 2 captains and just give it your all. I picked 2 captains. I told you it was Stevenson and Mostert, and bang, I got it. Had I had exposure around like 10 captains, I may have only had 1 or 2 Mostert captain lineups, and it may not have been this perfect lineup. It may have been Mostert with other people, like my other 8 lineups, right? Or other 9 lineups. I had 9 other Mostert lineups that didn't win. I could have had 2 of those that didn't win. This is why you need to really bunker down and take risks and just put all your eggs in a couple baskets and rock with it. Trust yourself, or, know that there's a significant risk but a high reward. Or You can be that person that's like, nah, I like 8 captains this week, and then you enter $20 and you maybe win $7 or $8 back because they all kind of cash in like $1 or $2 paydays. That's not me. $20 to win, 31,000 in the Millie Maker, like all day long. I should have did it. Don't know why I didn't.
Yeah, mine was 14. Mine was my difference was 14 points off of this lineup. I had a Gesicki instead of a Hunter Henry, and where I went different was instead of rostering the second running back like Phil did here, I rostered a third string or fourth string wide receiver and a second string tight end. So, but I had the top 4 the same exact way.
Right, and then another thing that you can see from this lineup is that my captain was only owned 4%. So out of 83,000 people, they only 4% of them captained him. That's your exposure difference right there. That's what you're looking to get is different in the captain spot. Because if your captain hits and it's different, you're going to hit. Like I won more money than this. As you can see, I won like $552. So I made like another $20 off the other lineups just because they came into the money. So
because you also went with Mostert in the other ones, right? You're saying
yes, 9 other lineups with Mostert as the captain. So they were when you stick the captain, you're gonna win money. Yeah. And now you have a higher chance to get that top. We call it the nuts or the optimal lineup when you have more of them. And that's why I tell people like Cody and some friends when they ask that on a 20 max, I narrow it down to like 1 or 2 captains, and then I just let it rock. I don't want 4, 5, 6 captains on a 20 max because then I'm too spread thin. And although like Mostert may be the captain, I only got a couple lineups to him because I got a bunch of lineups to Stevenson and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. I was willing to look at their exposures and see that it was worth fading. And I took it. I rocked with it. It paid off. I won. I do that every week. I don't win every week, but when I win, I win. As you can see, I've won more than this in the past by a long shot. But we even had a friend. I'll shout out my friend Kenry. He watched our podcast. He tuned in, and he was winning the Millie Maker on FanDuel for a majority of the day. It's a position I've never been in my DFS career.
Literally $500,000 within his grasp.
Yeah, he literally he had a sole lineup winning $1 million. Nobody was tied with him.
Was he sweating at that point?
He was sweating.
Did he tell you what was kind of going down? Because he was in my
Discord. He was like, "I'm shaking right now." Like,
that's what.
And he still, he didn't win $1 million. I don't know if he made significant money or not, but I do know he's still top 5% of all people that entered in that tournament. Is a lot.
He followed your Justin Herbert trail. Yeah. Phil and Brad, both of you were high on Justin Herbert.
He told us he listened to the podcast.
He took Phil's Pistorio Law Firm Lock of the Week with Kenneth Walker.
Lock of the Week.
I called
my Mike Evans play. You're hard up on Keenan Allen. And then my Nico Collins flex off the side, and then he got different with us from
who did he go with in his captain slot? Did he tell you?
This was a full lineup, a full main slate lineup. So it was a full main slate lineup. So the only person that he got different from or really didn't follow us with was. Or people that we didn't really talk about was James Cook in the running back spot.
Okay.
And Jonnu Smith in the tight end spot. And there was the thing was Jonnu Smith, where he got different from everybody else was Jonnu Smith as a number 2 tight end.
Yeah.
On that team. Jonnu Smith was rostered in the Millie Maker on FanDuel less than 0.1%.
So
it had 6.7 points.
In those main slates, you don't
more than Kyle Pitts.
When you on those main slates, you don't draft a captain. The captain is for showdowns, just 1 game slates, and that's that way there's not so much overlap. You gotta pick that captain spot does a 1.5 point boost in that spot. Yes. So when you pick a captain, if they get 20 points, it'll get an extra 0.5 boost on that. But the actual main lineups that aren't showdowns, you're drafting like you would in your full fantasy league, a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, or 3.
Okay.
I forget now.
I
flex,
got you.
defense.
2 wides, there are 3 wideouts, a tight end, a flex, and a defense.
Like a regular league game.
Yes.
In the fantasy league.
Same value. There's no boosted spots or anything like that. I mean, I've done fantasy a long time, played in a lot of milli makers. I've never been in first making $1 million. I've never been in first that late in the slate. Like, he only had to survive like another quarter in those 4 o'clock games to win $1 million. And it just started raining bad on him with
that Arizona game is what killing.
Is what burned him. The Arizona game.
He said he had tuned into our podcast, but he didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing because his girl wanted to listen to music in the car. And as he listened to the podcast the whole time, I called Josh Reynolds as the play. And that was his difference that he did not have. And he said if I would have played Josh Reynolds instead of this person, he would have still won the $1 million. So all his girlfriend had to do was just listen to the boys on Ballers and Briefs, and they'd have been sitting on $1 million.
We try to tell him. We try to give good info.
We tried to let him know. I mean, that's what we're here to do. I mean, some people might take it like we want something out of it, but we don't. I'm significantly trying to help people. You know, if I win, I want y'all to win. Like, y'all could have been one of the 35 people that split with me. I don't care if you're winning, I'm winning. We all winning. Let's get this money.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think that's. I mean, I think we're set for tomorrow. I mean, I think I'm riding a CMC wave if I'm playing FanDuel tomorrow. I mean, I don't know if I can afford him in an MVP spot. I mean, obviously he's going to be. I mean, I guess he's probably got to go in your MVP spot if you're going to play him because he might as well. Because in FanDuel, he don't cost any more to put him in the MVP spot like it does in the captain spot in DraftKings. So I'm probably, if I'm playing CMC, I'm shoving him probably in the MVP spot tomorrow because he's going to get touches at the goal line. And then you're looking for maybe probably a Daniel Jones as a captain. I mean, not a captain, as a flex. And then
I think you could captain him. You could captain Daniel Jones on FanDuel.
MVP him, yeah. And then
quarterbacks win in captain spots more than anybody on FanDuel. But there's always a lot of ties on FanDuel for that reason, and because you're only drafting like 5 people as opposed to 6 on.
Yeah, I'm looking right now to see what.
I think you could actually be different on FanDuel by fading CMC tomorrow. I mean, that's a high risk though, right? Like Cody's saying, CMC in the captain spot on FanDuel sounds like a phenomenal play.
But you know what,
but
though?
A lot of people are going to do it.
Christian McCaffrey is FanDuel. This is FanDuel points, right? So FanDuel points right now, he's averaging 22.7. There's no effing way that he's covering 18,000 cost, right? That's how much he costs on FanDuel with that money, right? Your Daniel Jones is 19.1 FanDuel points a game, and he's 16,000. Okay. So according to quarterbacks versus opponent rank, so Daniel Jones, it's a 10th ranked defense, right? So I think maybe Phil's right there. You could take a chance on a Daniel Jones in the MVP spot in FanDuel. Just the simple fact of the matter is, there's a possibility that I think it's Aubrey Jones or something like that. He's a corner for San Francisco, sits tomorrow also. So you could attack that defense, and then the Daniel Jones, I'm just going to put it in my own hands and try to strong arm it into the end zone from the 10-yard line that he does sometimes. And then you're getting different from with your guys like I get Slayton, and
I don't think they're FanDuel worthy at all. None of them. I think you got to go to the 49ers for FanDuel after that. You need scores.
There's Phil's man use check sitting down there at 5,500, averaging. These are FanDuel numbers, right? So 3.07, and in FanDuel, that's good. That's good. That's a half a touchdown. So I mean that
he gets you that touchdown, slate breaker.
And then guys like Ross Dwelly, the second tight end for San Francisco, and then you're falling down the rabbit hole after that. It's just But yeah, it's those garbage time guys. Your Jalen Hyatt play actually, Brad. 5 points fantasy points per game. He's 7,000. I mean, if you're loading up on top end talent, hoping that you're
maybe
I'm gonna play him. I'm gonna play him because of Brad. I wasn't gonna play this dude, but now Brad's talking about his speed. It's got me thinking my man Brandon Cooks. It's got me thinking of my man Raheed Shaheed for the Saints.
I mean, I'm probably gonna. I think I'm gonna.
If you got just along the lines of being different, he's probably won't be owned because he's like the third or fourth receiver.
$1,500 difference.
The Giants being on the field a lot, so that's going to be a lot of formations, a lot of different receivers. All it takes is one play.
He might even get a few. He might even get.
And you know what I'm thinking, though,
and of course he might get a couple underneath. But I think if he could get loose just one time, it might be the difference.
Look at Shaheed. He got massive targets. Like everybody was like, "Oh, he's your quick down the field. He's gonna break the slate." He didn't even need that. My man got targeted like 8 times in that game. It was crazy.
Yeah,
like that could happen here. So you telling me he got speed like that? Then I'm all in. Like I like fast players because they get open downfield. They also just get open. Tyreek Hill gets open. Like that's it.
I think they might draw something up for him.
I mean, it's like he reminds me. I think of in going back to Dable's time in Buffalo. What's his name? Wide receiver. Goodness, Isaiah McKenzie. He's Isaiah McKenzie. You know what I'm talking about, Brad. And Buffalo, Phil knows what I'm talking about.
Georgia?
Yes, Isaiah McKenzie. Phil knows I was a big Isaiah McKenzie guy, and I made money off of Isaiah McKenzie. I made an Isaiah McKenzie call one Sunday or one showdown. I told Phil Isaiah McKenzie's gonna pop off. That's who I'm gonna play as my punt play. Because obviously at that time he was like 4th-string wide receiver on that Buffalo team with Gabe Davis, and I think Emmanuel Sanders was still on the team at that point. Cole Beasley. I was like, watch, Isaiah McKenzie's gonna pop. And every time I made sure I had him in my lineup after that point. And I feel like Dable could scheme up a Jalen Hyatt type without a Saquon Barkley. He needs a spark. He needs somebody like that. And I think a Dable could use a Jalen Hyatt and an Isaiah McKenzie type jet sweep out the backfield, wide receiver screen, get him out in the outside and just let him go. So
but yes, I agree with Isaiah Hodgins as well. I think Phil's mentioned him earlier. I believe he's like 6'4". So
I was gonna say he's your touchdown guy.
He's a great red zone target if they can get close enough as well. He can get you some sneaky points from that.
He's just really high. He's really high cost tomorrow. At least on FanDuel, FanDuel, he's only
okay.
He's only he's $10,500. So he's considered.
How much is Slayton?
Slayton is $8,500. So there's $2,000 difference. What is the difference on DraftKings, Phil?
I mean, it's a big difference on DraftKings. But I think Isaiah Hodgins is wide receiver 1. That's why.
Is he considered the 1? I thought Slayton was considered the 1.
I think he's considered the 1. Let me see if I can find out.
I thought Slayton was the X.
Slayton might be the 1, but I can tell you right now the pricing even on DraftKings has Isaiah Hodgins more expensive, which means they're seeing kind of what we're seeing, that he's probably the better guy. I think people forgot about Isaiah Hodgins last year because he definitely was in optimals and definitely was scoring touchdowns. I'm definitely gonna have Isaiah Hodgins tomorrow. He's 6,200 on DraftKings. Darius Slayton is 5,600. Not too much of a difference. It's a very high price on FanDuel, but because of that high price and because he hasn't done shit, I guarantee he's low as fuck owned on FanDuel. And there you go. You could have Daniel Jones as captain, Isaiah Hodgins in there, even Giants defense, and bring it back with like Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and win the $1 million.
Boom.
Yeah.
There you go, people.
Kill.
Well, if you don't know, now you know.
There you go. Let's get this money.
I think Niners come out with the victory tomorrow. I think that's what we're looking at.
Do you see them covering? Do they cover?
10 points? Not on Thursday night.
I see them winning by 7 at the most. I'm seeing like a 5 for some reason.
What about the over-under? What is it, 41? 40?
44. That's tough.
44?
I'm going to say under.
Yeah.
It's probably not something I would bet. You know, if you're betting.
Actually, the line just moved. The line just moved as we've been sitting here. I told you it was 10. It is now 10 and a half.
Oh, I love it. Get your money in at 10 and a half.
Wow.
It's the line has moved to 10 and a half since I've been sitting here looking at this. It was 10.
What has happened? Who's not playing?
I think it's just natural line moving from bets coming in.
Money's just moving that hard over.
It's moving on the 49ers right now. So I see it at 10 and a half now.
Well, according it's still on. If you open up on the Caesars, it still says 10, but on front of it says 10 and a half. So it's weird.
Don't worry, I just put my money on the Giants as we speak. I like that 10 and a half. Not gonna let it go by. There it is. Good call on the 10 and a half. You know, book that.
And
it's 44 of and under. So yeah,
Danny.
That's tough. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna say under though. I mean, I kind of hope it's over because. I like to see scoring and not these slow ass games, but you never know. I mean, under. It's going under.
Yeah.
That's gonna be boring, dude. Giants 49ers, what can you do?
We'll see what we see, I guess.
Yeah. Especially if they're running it with CMC the whole time. It's just run.
It's gonna kill the clock.
You know, miss out. Yeah, shout out to Marcus again. Shout out to everybody that watches the podcast, takes information.
And we just got hip on TikTok.
We made a TikTok.
Check us out on the TikTok.
Check us out everywhere. You know, YouTube, Facebook, Ballers and Briefs. We've been getting a lot of people hopping in. You know, everybody wins.
And the more we get on, the more people we get, the more times if you need to see us popping in and out, giving you like last minute what ifs, what to do. We'll try to be on here more. Yes.
Feel free to ask questions in here too. If you got like a waiver wire problem,
whatever you need.
If you're playing DFS and you got a DFS specific question, you know, I'll try to help out. You can ask in here. You can ask on our Facebook group. Join the Facebook group if you're not in there and ask the questions. No questions is too many, and you know it creates good conversation and feedback.
And I'll drop the Facebook link again in the comments after the show, so you all can join up if you want. And like I said, there's a couple questions. I already had a few people try to join that were bots. I was like, get out of here with that mess. They're like, they just opened their Facebook like 5 days before they did the request and they didn't fill out any of the questions. And I was like, obviously you're a bot, get out of here. So, but we appreciate everybody and we want to hear your questions. So bring them back next time and we'll see you guys on Saturday.
And we'll talk about the main slate for Sunday. You know, get everybody ready with the injury updates and the sneaky good plays. Maybe take down that million. Maybe Kimry will get it again this week. We'll see.
Let's get it. Let's get this money.
All right, y'all. Peace.